I'm going to give you advice why you should upgrade from double O gauge to O gauge and then give you the top 6 retailers in the UK. Hi everybody and welcome back to Newton Grow. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel, throw a comment below as we go along through the video, and if you want to, please support the channel like some of the other Patreons are. Now, you may already be an O gauge modeler or you may be a double O gauge modeler. I used to be a double O gauge modeler many years ago, and I used to go to exhibitions and look at O gauge stuff and be, well, blown away really is the term. I was just fascinated because it was so huge, especially compared to double O. I mean, for example, this is a double O gauge 16-ton mineral wagon by Bachmann. And if you're a double O gauge modeler, you think, wow, this looks really nice, it's a decent size, there's really amazing detail, it's quite good. And most of what people model is double O gauge. If you look at a lot of the magazines, like Hornby magazine, for example, double O gauge is the most popular scale. However, when you compare it to an O gauge 16-ton mineral wagon, this suddenly looks incredibly diminutive, because it is. Now, I've had different people ask me on Facebook or YouTube or whenever they see me out and about, how did I get into O gauge? Well, I'm going to give you the same advice that I was given. I went to see a friend of mine many years ago. He was a commercial builder, used to do a lot of high-rise buildings, and he had this really wonderful American switching layout in O scale. In America, I think it's 1:48 or whatever it's called. Anyway, I just simply said to him, wow, how did you get into O gauge? And he said, well, listen, Jonathan, take my advice. Go out there and buy yourself a kit, a basic kit, build it, and just see what you think of it. So being young and very impulsive, I'm still very impulsive, I drove off to my local hobby shop and I bought myself a Peco 16-ton mineral wagon kit. I built it that evening, put it on my bedroom cabinet next to one of these double O gauge wagons, and I was blown away at just how large and detailed the kit was. It was mind-boggling. I'd seen O gauge before, but I'd never actually touched it. I hadn't been that close to it before, and I was really impressed. Anyway, about a month went by, and I kept looking at this solitary wagon thinking, well, you can't just have one of them. That's a bit silly, isn't it? I'll buy another one. So back I went to my model shop, bought another 16-ton Peco mineral wagon kit, and one length of O gauge flexible track. Came home, built the wagon in one night, put the track down where the wagon was, put 2 wagons together, coupled them up, and I looked back and thought, wow, that looks fantastic. About 5 seconds later, I said to myself, it needs a locomotive. And that was the very start of my O gauge journey. Up until that point, I'd had around sort of 45 double O gauge locomotives, all XLMS or BR standards. I sold literally all of them apart from 2 of them. I kept a Britannia and an 8F, and I put all that money that I accumulated into my very first O gauge locomotive, which was a Sanchen Black 5. In fact, it's the very same Black 5 that you saw me weather in a few videos, and I will link that at the top and at the end of this video as well. And since then, my O gauge collection has grown and grown and grown. I've obviously built Newton Grove, I'm now building Knotlob, and I have a collection of locomotives that for somebody of my age, in my early 40s, people would say is very envious. So if you've been thinking about O gauge, but you're a double O gauge modeler or an N gauge modeler or maybe even TT120, and you're thinking, wow, how do you get into O gauge and how can I start? It's the same advice that I was given, I'm giving to you. Buy a kit, build it, see what you think, and if it's meant to get addictive, if it's meant to strike a chord with you where you go, wow, I love this big stuff, then you will naturally become an O gauge modeler. People do say, of course, but O gauge is so expensive. Well, yes, it is. But for example, I mean, over here, I've got the O gauge Dapol Ginty. And these days, you can get one of these on special from Rails for about £150. I mean, you can get a double O gauge model these days from Accurascale or Hornby or Bachmann for between £200 and £300, depending on if it's DCC fitted, sound fitted, and everything else like that. So when you think about it, a really big steam locomotive like an O gauge Ginty, which doesn't take up a lot of space, and you can build a small layout with that and a few wagons, it's not that expensive at all to get into it. After a while, when you accumulate more and more and more, you look back and go, ha ha, I could buy half a house with my collection. Ask me how I know that one. In fact, I could afford a mansion if I sold all my stuff. Anyway, I digress. Now, if you are thinking of getting into O-Gauge, or you've started dabbling in O-Gauge but you want to get further into it, well, I want to now give you a list of the top 6, in my opinion, the top 6 retailers in the UK that you can purchase from. So starting from number 6, I'm going to recommend to you Footplate Models of Kidderminster. Now, you'll find that most of the major UK exhibitions like Key Model World Live, the Great Electric Train Show and Model Rail Scotland, and many others in between, they stock a lot of second-hand models and new models as well, and they are a great company. They're growing very rapidly, and they do have quite a really good selection of new and pre-owned models, steam, diesel, carriages, wagons, and everything in between. So Footplate Models of Kidderminster, give them a look. I've got their web details on screen. Next is Dapol. As I just said, you can get yourself a Ginty from Dapol. Of course, they've done the 08. They've just released with Lionheart Trains the 3MT BR tank locomotive, which is exquisite. And as I said, a Ginty and an 08 cost you roughly about £150, £200. The Class 3, I think if you get the top of the range one, it's about £500 to £600. Once again, wonderful models, really good manufacturer, and you can buy directly from Dapol as well. Now, of course, there are people around the country who stock Dapol. You don't need to go through Dapol yourself, but if you do want to buy direct from Dapol, I do highly recommend them. Fourth on the list is TMC, the Model Centre. Now, they are located in Beckhole, up near Whitby. In fact, when you're standing at TMC, you can actually hear all the locomotives working upgrade toward Goathland on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. It really is a fantastic place. The good thing with TMC is they've got brand new stock and lots of pre-owned as well. And of course, they do offer an absolutely amazing weathering service. In fact, if you have a look at my video on my 9Fs, or the spaceships as the video is titled, you'll actually see one of my 9Fs has been weathered by TMC, one of their premium weathering services. So you can buy O-Gauge, get it weathered over there, and they sell everything from track, wiring, accessories, everything you need, steam, diesel, coaches, wagons, kits, everything you need. So do check out TMC. They have been around for many, many years, and they are a really good and trusted retailer. Number 3 on the list is Rails of Sheffield, more commonly known these days as just Rails. Once again, you will see them around all of the major UK exhibitions. Key Model World Live, Model Rail Scotland. They are everywhere. Basically, Rails has become the replacement for Hattons. Of course, Hattons closed a few years ago, which is a shame, but Rails really now is the largest, in my opinion, the largest retailer of model railways in the UK. They've got such a wonderful service over there, brand new stock, second-hand stock. They sell on eBay as well as through their website. They really are an amazing retailer. And whilst they haven't got loads and loads of O-Gauge, when they do get some stuff through, it's great stuff. Like I say, some new, such as the Dapol Lionheart things. They've got some second-hand stuff as well. And they've also got a few commissions. So for example, Ellis Clark Trains earlier on this year announced their O-Gauge and double O-Gauge Pug locomotives. And Rails of Sheffield is not only stocking the Ellis Clark Trains Pug, but they're also doing their own unique livery version, which is exclusive to them as well. So I do highly recommend Rails. Number 2 on my list is a small business called Steamline. That's right, not Streamline, but Steamline. Steamline.co.uk. They're located in Halifax in West Yorkshire. I found out about them many, many years ago. It really is just an online website. You can't buy through the website. You need to email and actually ask for what you want. But they do offer an amazing service, and they're always stocking mostly second-hand stock, but they separate everything into the 4 groups. So you've got Midland, Southern, Western, Eastern, and then of course you've got all the BR range as well. They also dabble in a little bit of Gauge 1. But I have bought locomotives from them in the past. I bought a Crab. What else did I buy? I bought... I forget, but I've bought many things from Steamline, and of course you do see them at shows such as Gildex as well. So make sure you check out steamline.co.uk if you really want to get a bargain and some really fantastic O-Gauge locomotives. Number 1 on my list, well, it has to be the one and the only Ellis Clark Trains of Skipton. Now, Ellis Clark Trains, in my opinion, is the ultimate, and I do mean the ultimate, business dealing with O-Gauge, not just in Britain, but in my opinion, in the world. They sell amazing second-hand stock. They clearly tell you if it's in great condition, or if it's what they call workshop condition, which is maybe not a runner, you might need to do a little bit of work to it, or you might need to fettle to fix it or thereabouts. Of course, they do their own models. They've done the press flows. They've worked with Darstad to do the Pullman carriages and some of the Mark 1s. They've, of course, got their amazing Black 5. They've obviously announced the Pug and O-Gauge, and of course, as the years roll on, there'll be many more O-Gauge projects to follow. If you've seen the Ellis Clark Black 5, it really is exquisite. And the Pug, even though I've only seen the tooled sample, the decorated samples haven't arrived in the UK as I'm shooting this video, but the O-Gauge Pug is something else. Inside working valve gear, ashpan glow, the most amazing firebox glow with a breathing fire. The level is just next detail, and the best thing is, it's so affordable. I think from memory, if you got the O-Gauge Pug DCC sound fitted, it's around about £400 altogether. Now, it's smaller than a Ginty. You can easily build yourself a small O-Gauge layout with a Pug and a few press flow wagons, for example, or a few kits or thereabouts, and you've got a great O-Gauge layout. So Ellis Clark Trains, in my opinion, is the absolute best O-Gauge specialist in the UK. And of course, they don't only send things around the UK, they do send things all around the world. So I do highly recommend you look at the team at Ellis Clark Trains, because in my personal opinion, they are the best. I bought so many things from them. Black 5s, I've got Duchesses, I've got 9Fs, I've got the Crab, I've got so many of the wonderful weathering services from Neil. In fact, that's one of the other great things. For all their O-Gauge stock, they do offer a weathering service in either light, medium or heavy, and that is amazing. So if you are buying from Ellis Clark Trains, especially in O-Gauge, make sure that you do request to get some weathering done from the team there. So that was my top 6 recommendations for specialists in the UK that stock O-Gauge. Now, of course, there are many other retailers in the UK and around the world that do stock O-Gauge, but the 6 that I have listed are the ones that are really more, I would say, the specialists. Of course, you do have other retailers as well, such as Trains for You, Tony Trains of Rugby, and so many more. So just because a lot of companies haven't made the list of the top 6, it doesn't mean that they don't stock O-Gauge or that they're not really good with O-Gauge. I just feel that the top 6 that I have listed are my personal preferences to where I've always bought O-Gauge from, and they really are more specialist, in my opinion, in the scale. So make sure you check them out and support them. There's some links down below for rails as well, so check it out. Now, do me a favor, comment below, are you an O-Gauge modeler or are you a double O-Gauge modeler? And if you are a double O-Gauge modeler, what will it take to convince you to upscale? Apart from the money. Leave me a comment below, I would love to hear from you. Now, before I sign off, I'm going to start introducing a brand new video series, which I'll probably do maybe once a month, where I want to see your layouts, your models. If you're an O-Gauge modeler, only if you're an O-Gauge modeler, sorry if you're not on that scale, but if you are an O-Gauge modeler, I'd like to see some video or some photographs of your layout. Now, if it's just photographs that you're sending, please just email them to me on the email address on the screen. If you're sending video, please put it onto either a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive folder, and once again, email it to this email address on screen. And what I will do is I will feature your layout in a video, as I say, about once a month, where we're going to basically do a sort of a virtual O-Gauge exhibition as such. So what I need from you is your name, the name of your layout, and basically what it is, what the prototype is it BR, is it Midland, is it Eastern, is it an industrial layout, is it an Inglenook, is it a massive big garden layout, for example. Give me a little bit of detail so I can feature your layout, talk about who you are and what you do, because I feel that showcasing what everyone's doing in O-Gauge and making, as I say, a bit of a virtual O-Gauge exhibition every now and again could be a good little video series to be a part of. So please send your submissions to the email address on screen, and of course you'll find the email address listed below and on my home tab of YouTube as well. Right, so enough ranting from me. I look forward to hearing from you very soon. I will see you in my next video when I hopefully start some more work on .lob. So thank you, and I'll see you next time on Newton Grove.